Is there a way that Damian Lillard can become the best point guard in basketball at the end of the season?
The biggest debut I think that we seen in opening week was Dame's debut with the Bucks. That's the biggest one.
Incredible.
And Dame showed out. He had 39 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He didn't give Bucks fans a sneak peek. He gave them the entire movie in terms of what they should expect from him. The biggest knock with the Bucks these past couple of years, and even though they won a championship this way, was the fact that Giannis is their best player, but he's not their closer. Chris Middleton will close out games. Now, Dame is going to close out games. There's no question about that. And, you know, I don't think Giannis gets enough credit for this, but Giannis is the most unselfish teammate there is. Him and Steph Curry are right up there, 1 and 2.
I was waiting for
with
that.
superstar. Of course, I saw his eyes in the back of my eyes. I saw him looking at me in a certain type of way.
So we're here.
You know, Steph, of course, he's the most unselfish player. That's why he let Kevin Durant come and be the better player in those 2 finals.
The jab doesn't move me. We're here.
It's not a jab. It's just the truth.
No,
That's
you didn't have to say all that.
it's
You
just
didn't
a
have to say all
truth.
that.
It's just
You
the
didn't have to
truth,
say all
Riff.
that, you know?
I think Giannis embracing Dame in the way he's embracing him, saying that I told him this is his team. I don't care about what the media says. I don't care about what anybody says. I told him personally, this is his team. Now, whether or not we believe it or not, Giannis has made this transition as comfortable as possible for Dame. And I think it's the biggest reason why this can be one of the best duos we've seen in terms of superstar pairings, because their games match each other perfectly. We saw that opening night. Dame even said in an interview with Chris Haynes before the game that, you know, it's been on record that I said this is the guy I wanted to play with. Our games match perfectly, and I felt like we saw that. This is going to be one of the funnest duos to watch in the NBA. I don't care about the track record that other duos may have. I think currently this is the best one, and Dame in his first game really showed out in a big-time way.
I think it's something to say to where, you know, you mentioned him being unselfish. When have we ever seen probably a top 2 player in the world give his team to a guy who's probably not even in the same tier as him? Like, it's probably like when Steph did it, him and Kevin Durant was in the same tier. You know, when LeBron and D-Wade did it, D-Wade at that time was like a top 5 player in the world. This is a situation where you got probably either in some people's eyes the best or the second best to most people in the league, to a point where it's a guy who's probably like between the 8 to 12, you know, range. And he's openly saying, this is your team. You can have this team. I just want to win another championship. And that goes to show, like you mentioned, Giannis's unselfishness and the fact that he just wants to win. And, you know, we saw a sneak peek of it against Philly. You know, Dame wasn't his best in the first quarter. Giannis looked like he was taking charge in the first. And then Giannis let Dame get loose. And when Dame got loose, there was nothing Philly can do. And that pick and roll is dangerous.
Unbelievable.
You know? Like I don't know how you're going to stop it, you know, unless you got a backline defender and then you can just switch or something like that. I don't know how you're going to stop it, but that Dame and Giannis pick and roll, the Dame and Brook Lopez pick and roll, Dame and whatever pick and roll is always working. But that team, if you got Brook, you got the pick and pop. If you got Giannis, you got the strong roller, or you just got a menacing big body Derrick Henry coming down to you. He's going to either dunk it or lay it up. And then Giannis is still his.
See, that was kind of a slight.
It was, for sure. But Giannis is still his dominating self. And then the team, you know, when Chris Middleton gets off minutes restriction, you still have Brook Lopez, who looks fine. You know,
Jay Crowder was getting his.
Jay Crowder was solid. You know, I saw some Buchamp minutes. He
played
looked
20
good.
minutes.
He looked good in his minutes. So they're going to need that extra Jay Crowder. They're going to need all that because they're pretty top heavy. But Dame was amazing. You know, 14 in the last 3-4 minutes of the fourth quarter. You know, he came up big, came up clutch. And the Bucks, this is what's going to be the Bucks. They're going to rely on their 2 guys, and the rest of the guys are just going to have to follow suit. But like you mentioned, this is probably talent-wise easily the best duo in the league. Like, I don't think any duo was close.
I think you saw it down the stretch of the game when Giannis had that and one. You see Damian Lillard go up to Giannis, chest bump him. In that moment, you could just feel Damian Lillard understanding, I'm playing with the best player that I play with in my career. And this was night one that you saw down the stretch. It was either Giannis or it was Dame. And for a majority, it was Damian Lillard. A lot of what I said prior to the season starting was the team needed a go-to scoring option. And Damian Lillard was the second best statistically in that category last season. We know Damian Lillard's track record. He is one of the better scorers in the NBA. And you pair him next to one of the best I say two-way. Obviously, we know he's not a versatile offensive player. Talking about Giannis, he's primarily going to get to the cup. One of the most dominant forces this game's ever seen. But on the defensive side of the ball, we saw that yesterday too. He was very active, blocking shots.
He took the challenge to Embiid too.
And honestly, he won very comfortably.
That's what we've been
won.
asking for.
He made Embiid look very disgruntled. He made him feel uncomfortable. We saw Embiid kind of get his towards the end, but again, he was playing a little too lackadaisical for my liking. We talked about that before the show. How do you turn the ball over where you're trying to make a cool tap pass to swing the ball to the top of the key? You turn the ball over and you just stand still. You're not even moving. The game was very much in reach. You were up 8 points at one point in that fourth quarter. You let Dame and the Milwaukee Bucks gain all the momentum, and they were able to come away with the win. But this is going to be all season long the Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo show. They're going to eat offensively. I loved what I saw from Damian Lillard, and I fully anticipate it going on all season.
It's definitely scary when Giannis can be the second best player on a team and they still end up winning against the Sixers team, even without James Harden. I mean, Tyrese Maxey played his ass off. He was phenomenal last night. Giannis, I mean, he had 7 turnovers. He was 10 for 22, 3 for 9 from the line. Like, this was not a good Giannis game. And Damian Lillard in the fourth quarter, Joel mentioned it. First of all, it's pretty amazing that they did win that championship when they didn't have like a top tier shot creator in those crunch time moments in the fourth quarter. And watching Damian Lillard last night just hit 3 after 3, the step back, like everything. I was sick. I was sick to my stomach. I was rooting for the Sixers first time in my life. I was like, I need this to happen. But Dame got 17 free throws. The NBA couldn't let that happen on his debut. But no, seriously, I mean, this is why everyone was so high on the Dame trade. And how could you not be? Like, this pairing in theory worked perfectly, and we've seen it for the first time. And Dame just looked like a perfect glove next to Giannis. And we're going to have games where Giannis is not terrible and turns the ball over 7 times, and they still put up 117 points against the Sixers team. So Damian Lillard more or less did what he's been doing his whole career. Now he's just on a team that has legitimate chance to win the finals. So for my Boston Celtics, I'm glad we got some good guards on the perimeter and Drew Holiday and Derek White, because it's going to be a handful to guard those two.
Let me ask you guys this question. Is there a way that Damian Lillard can become the best point guard in basketball at the end of the season? He was MVP.
He's better than Steph.
He averages 30 on the way there.
Steph Curry's done that as the main guy.
Agreed. But again, we're talking about by the end of this season, the way that we understand rankings can move. We just saw SGA go from, let's say, a top 30 player to a top 10 player. If Damian Lillard goes and, again, averages 30, continues to close out.
Yeah, but it's hard to
I'm
move
posing
from
the question. Wins the finals.
There's only one person that could take Steph's spot.
And that's Luka.
Yeah.
But again, what if Dame continuously dominates offensively, goes and has a championship run, is finals MVP?
You're talking about him possibly winning MVP of the regular season too. At that point, he's going to be the best point guard.
But not necessarily.
I think it's easier to jump from 30 to 10 than 10 to like top 3. You know what I mean?
That's
who's putting
SGA in the top 10? ESPN ranked him top 10.
That's true. He's not
a top 10
player. You understand what I'm saying? Fringe top 10. I'm just saying how drastic of a jump.
Where do you have Dame right now? Like 10?
Dame right now is a
fringe 10.
Yeah,
you have Steph at 3.
He's a top 5 player, most definitely.
So you're saying Dame would have to statistically he
just
would have
take
to be
5 spots.
That's a lot,
which isn't crazy. We've seen players do that.
It's 5, but the guys he's jumping are.
And you would also be hoping for a Steph decline
again. And I'm not saying that this is a foregone conclusion. I'm asking: is there a scenario where we can see? I'm saying yes. There is a scenario I can see.
We're talking about him in MVP conversation for the regular season, winning the finals.
The only way I can see that is if Steph declines.
But the scenario that you're seeing right now, you're seeing a perfect scenario.
Best case, exactly.
Yeah. And that's Dame having an MVP like regular season. That's the Bucks being one of the best teams in the NBA. That's the Bucks basically cruising to the finals, and then in the finals, cruising to that win, and Dame being better than Giannis in all of that.
And of course, game 1, the matchup was there in terms of on the defensive side of the ball. It's Joel Embiid. Giannis is still going to get his, but again, if you have the mismatch that you do on the perimeter with the Damian Lillard, it's going to be a night-to-night thing where we see Damian Lillard have the nights that we had last night, and then, of course, Giannis having the mismatch, he's going to go get his. I'm not saying that Damian Lillard is well, maybe you could have the argument that he will be in the running for an MVP in the MVP race. But again, let's not overreact to night 1 where he dropped almost 40 points. That's not going to be a night-to-night thing. But I do firmly think that if we see him go on this crazy run in the regular season, consistently do what he does, that we know that he can do, go into the playoffs. They're a championship team, and he's Finals MVP. I'm saying that is the scenario we see him become the best guard in the game.
But you can make that argument for, I mean, just about anyone. If they have an MVP type season,
well, I'm just saying there's a more likely case.
I think Steph
there's a
at this
more
point,
likely case that Dame can do it over a lot of the guys in the league.
I think Steph at this point has reached that level in his career where
I'm fine with that.
Amongst point guards, he's pretty much untouchable.
Like, 4 chips.
I just think
MVP.
because you mentioned
untouchable.
Yeah.
But people were putting Luka over him so comfortably a couple seasons. That's all I'm saying.
Killing me.
That's all I'm
but
saying.
Then people did it with Dame when Steph was hurt.
People are just bored, especially like the offseason and shit too.
People get bored. I'm definitely not going to be the only one
over
saying
Mahomes
this.
2 years ago, and I'm like, how did I ever
agree?
It's obviously for clickbait. I just think like for that perfect scenario to happen, like we're expecting a Steph decline because Steph is gonna have an MVP like regular season. Steph is gonna play great in the playoffs. It just the Bucks are a better team than the Warriors.
They'll probably go farther.
Yeah, they'll for sure 100% go farther. I just think nothing that Dame is the player he's going to be for the rest of his career at this point. Steph is the player he's going to be. Dame isn't a better player than Steph. So that unless he becomes an elite defender, an elite playmaker, there should be nothing in the numbers to change your mind because you already know in your mind at this moment Steph is a better player than Dame. And it's not like neither one can really get better at their apex.
And we have to also see Dame play elite level basketball past the first round of the playoffs. To this point in his career, post first round, his stats decline drastically. Now with Giannis,
I was going to say I don't have to worry about it.
He should go back to the norm. But a
truth.
series with the Boston Celtics where you have Jrue Holiday, you have Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown, and Derek White that you can all throw at Dame.
Which is why
How
I
will he
say
handle that
very
series?
perfectly. It's going to be series where similar to the LeBron and AD run in 2020. There was half the series where we saw LeBron be the best. There was half the series where we saw Anthony Davis be the best. That's the luxury you have when you have 2 top 10 players. Now, in that series versus the Celtics, who needs to be the best player on the Boston Celtics? It needs to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's no one that can really guard Giannis at this point in time on the Boston Celtics. So for me in that scenario where Dame's still going to get his, the defensive matchup's definitely tougher on Dame than it is Giannis. That's when Dame knows that the pick and roll needs to be primarily centered around Giannis.
Historically, though, we've done a good job guarding Giannis in terms of efficiency. Like he's going to put
Doing
up
the
his
Heat,
numbers.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
doing the
we,
Heat, yep.
Given like Al has been really good against him. Now we have KP there, so Giannis, of course, is going to get his 25 to 35 every night against us. But it's a matter: can we make it difficult? Can it be inefficient? Because
And also, you don't be idiots.
Huh?
You also can't be idiots.
That would be my number 1 rule for the Celtics team.
Yeah.